Hey there, my name is Shane Craddock, and this is the Inner Edge podcast, where I share a different take on how to lead and live a sustainable high-performance life. Over the course of different episodes, I'm going to challenge the belief that tension, stress, and struggle are essential to success and creativity. My experience is that there's an easier way, there's a better way, and indeed there's an essential way that we need to explore for the times that we live in. So let's go ahead, let's jump in and explore. Hey there, Shane Craddock here, and welcome to today's episode of The Inner Edge, where we are going to be talking about sleep. This is just me entertaining myself, of course. The title is The Power of Sleeping on It, and it was inspired by an interview that I heard recently with the filmmaker James Cameron, who would have created Terminator, Titanic, of course, and then Avatar, amongst other things. Very inventive, successful guy. And he was just talking about how he would often get eureka moments, particularly from his sleep, either during or after sleep. And I want to just explore that a little bit, because I think he kind of reminded me of something that is very available to everybody, but I don't think everybody uses it or leverages it in the way that we could. Now, there's been a massive amount, an explosion really, of interest and research and science around the power of sleep and the importance of it, particularly in the digital age when so much sleep has been disrupted on a huge scale. I hear it all the time with clients. It's like an epidemic level. And if you don't get your sleep right, it's very hard to be at your best. It's very hard to get high performance. But I'm not really going to talk about that here today. What I'm talking about more is getting the eureka moments that James Cameron was talking about. So those insights, those ideas, those solutions, the answers to big problems, important problems. James Cameron, when he was being interviewed, was just talking about how, I think when he was in his early 20s, he had a dream of this very incredibly bright, colorful world with unusual creatures. And when he woke up, he started to draw it and paint it. And it was only 20 years later that became really the canvas for Avatar. If you've ever seen it, incredibly vivid, new type of world. That all came out of his imagination. He said that a couple of skeleton scenes in the Terminator franchise movies, that came from a dream. And he's not alone in that. He's not alone in that at all. So the point I'm making here today is perhaps you could consider getting your inner world to do a lot more work for you while you sleep, because it can. Now, a lot of people do have very vivid dreams. Who doesn't? But some have it more than others. I'm not really going to talk about lucid dreaming here. It's really more to do with getting those insights, getting those answers. Now, there's a very famous story which you may know about the person who discovered benzene. I think it's Frederick Kekule. And this was in 1865, so way before anything to do with neuroscience or sleep research. But he was daydreaming and kind of semi-asleep when he kind of got this insight. He saw this image of a snake forming a circle and biting its own tail. And at the time, he'd been very intensely working on trying to figure out the true chemical structure of benzene. And it was eluding him and many other scientists. And he went on to become a Nobel Prize winner, I think, for this work. But the dream of the snake swallowing its tail, as the story goes anyway, helped him to realize that benzene structure actually formed a ring, and that the connection of the carbon atoms was more of a ring structure, which was a paradigm shift at the time. And that paved the way for a complete new understanding of organic chemistry. And I'm pretty sure it earned him the Nobel Prize. If not, maybe even a lot more for him. There's other famous people that I know. Einstein would be a big fan of using sleep and getting answers from sleep. The playwright George Bernard Shaw, I think, used to say whenever he wanted to make some extra money, he'd just tell his unconscious mind, hey, I need a new idea for a story, give it to me. And he'd often get it from sleep or after sleep. So I think most people know this on some level. Certainly when I'm talking to entrepreneurs who know perhaps very little about the mind or the inner game, they'll tell you that this is kind of very often what happens. James Cameron may be one of those people, and maybe he doesn't know that much about the mind, but he's aware of the eureka moment process. And it's something that I think is built into everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, you can avail of this. And part of it's to do with I suppose, maybe the structure of our brains and our minds. I mean, science is eventually showing that I think about 92% of our brain is it deals with the subconscious area of our mind, the part that's underneath the waterline. And the conscious bit that, as you're listening to this podcast, wherever you are, you're listening through both, but the conscious bit is the one that's the thinker part. And it can generally only do one thing at a time. Well, you can multitask, but you mightn't do everything well. But if you want to do one thing well, that's the conscious mind. It focuses on one thing at a time. Whereas the subconscious mind, the bit that's the mass of the mind, the mass of your brain, that can do trillions of operations simultaneously. It is, from what I understand anyway, way more powerful than ChatGPT, even though ChatGPT is just incredible to watch in action. Your brain, your mind is beyond that for what it can do. The problem is, in today's busy world, is that the conscious mind is so busy that it's doing too much. It's getting burnt out. It's getting tired. That's why people are getting fatigued. But it's also blocking the subconscious doing what it can do for you. So when you get good sleep, that's you letting the deeper part of your mind get into action. It will work at light speed on different questions or problems. It'll sometimes then process that, especially when you get REM sleep, which is very deep sleep. And that's why things like digital health before you go to sleep at night, even how you manage your mind during the day, is critically important, because if you can get proper sleep that hasn't been contaminated too much by technology during your day, and especially in the evening time, not only will it give you proper rest and healing in your body, which is critically important, it also then, science will tell you that it helps memories, it helps processing things in the brain, tidying things up, cleaning things out. But in terms of idea generation and solving problems, it also kicks in. And if your mind is too busy, I think it can block that. Certainly I've seen that in myself, and I hear it from clients. So I know, for example, some people will have, I know one particular entrepreneur who's very successful, who told me before that before he goes to bed at night, he used to imagine his success as if it already happened, very vividly, like a movie. And because he was told to, I think he said by somebody, but he said it really helped, he said, program his mind. He said, except that at one point it got so exciting to him that it kept on waking him up. He couldn't go to sleep. He was so excited by it. So he said then he started to do it in the morning time. And I know if you're looking at, say, there was a guy called Dr. Herbert Benson, associate professor of medicine in Harvard. I'm not sure if he's still there. He was there for a while. He wrote a very interesting book called The Relaxation Response, but he also wrote a very interesting book called The Breakout Principle, which was about this kind of what he called, this is about the eureka moment. He called it the breakout principle. But essentially, if you look at his research, it all came down to one thing, which was, it's like the benzene scientist struggling with trying to figure something out at a conscious level. It was only when he was able to disconnect from his thinking. And what Herbert Benson said was, the research line said, it was when people disconnected from their previous patterns of thought. That's what Kekul did. That's what Cameron did or does when he goes to sleep, is that you have to almost let it go, turn it over to your conscious mind or unconscious mind, and allow it to do what it can do, which is work really, really fast and deeply to help you. Now, there is another question, which will be for a different podcast, around even the benzene ring. Sometimes you get these ideas that, even like Cameron with the inspiration for the Avatar world, like, where is that coming from? Is it coming from the future? Is it coming from something deeper? How come it came in the way that it did? Even with the benzene ring, you're trying to perhaps bring in new knowledge. And there's a massive area of research around that. So the key bit, though, is allowing your mind, your conscious mind, to relax, disconnect from the patterns of thinking and that effort. And sleep is a great opportunity to do that. Now, for most people, if they get a good night's sleep, it happens automatically with no thinking. And that's key. You don't want to force this, because it just doesn't work. You can't do this with your mind, force it. It doesn't like force. It likes to relax and just do what it's built to do. So I'm just going to give you a kind of a fun 4-step process here. I don't always give processes, but I'm going to give one here that you can experiment with. And the context for this is, like, if you're looking for an answer to a question, or if you're trying to even affirm a particular message for yourself in terms of new behavior or improved confidence or whatever it is, or an affirmation to yourself, or if there's a specific outcome that you want, this will actually help that. And I'd like you to experiment with it and see what happens yourself. So the first thing is, when you're getting ready for bed, assuming that you've been, not active on digital devices in, at least 90 minutes before bed, assuming you've done that and you're nice and relaxed. In the last couple of minutes before bed, I would suggest just listen to something relaxing. So either listen to some relaxing music that genuinely relaxes you, or if you're able to relax just by breathing gently, breathing slowly, deeply, do that. So first point is to listen and relax. Listen and relax. Relax the body, relax the mind. Second point then is to give an input. And the input could be a question. So that's one of my favorites, is I just sometimes will write down a question on a little notebook I have beside my bed, a question I'm trying to solve. And I just won't even think about it. Say, look, I want your help to solve this or answer this question, or give me some ideas. Sometimes if I have a specific outcome I'm working on, like say, for example, I'm working on my book, I might imagine a scene in the future which represents success, just for fun. Or the third one would be perhaps a message. And it might be just, I'm really enjoying life, or I'm really feeling confident and clear. And it's something that doesn't get a negative reaction from my mind. So for me, there's three areas there. There's a question, there's an outcome, or there's a message. So that's the second point. So we have relax and listen, then give the input. And then for me, what I found really helpful is I just spend a few seconds then imagining myself getting a great night's sleep. Silly as it sounds, I find it almost like tells my mind and programs my mind. I just get a visual and a feeling that goes with that, where I'm getting up the next morning and thinking, oh, I've had a great night's sleep. And then when I do that for a few seconds, then I just go back to the input, which is point 2, and I do it again. That's the fourth step, which is I just look at the question or consider it again, or I will imagine the outcome is done and I'll feel it, or I put in the positive message. And then, as I mentioned earlier on, I have a little notebook beside my bed, and I think by doing that, I'm kind of telling my mind, that I'm ready. I'm ready for answers. And I think importantly, you can't be going to go into bed saying, right, now that's it, I'm going to have an answer in the morning. You just can't predict when your mind delivers something. I mean, I don't get an answer like this every day. And if it comes something that's forced or pressurized or causing you tension, then I would back off and just leave it alone. But I'd always be ready for the delivery of the eureka moment, as James Cameron mentioned, or as Herbert Benson would say, for the breakout, where you kind of move to a higher level of clarity and you get this little idea or insight or solution. I think we all know this instinctively, but how many of us actually use it proactively? So that's a question for you. Are you using your sleep constructively? Or can you even recognize what I'm saying? Have you ever had a eureka moment or some form of inspiration from sleep, maybe during sleep? I've often been woken up by my sleep, but boom, there's the answer, or there's the line. When I was writing my book, I would periodically get woken up by an idea to move things around, or something new, or here's a key line. And so I just write it down before I forget about it and then go back to sleep. Very, very powerful. I remember a few years ago, somebody said to me, I think it's a common mantra in the online business world. People say, oh, yeah, make money while you sleep, have your digital programs online, make money while you sleep. And it's a brilliant concept, not as easy as you might think to execute, but it still is interesting concept, and it's possible. But I think what's more interesting to me is this: harness the power of your mind while you sleep, because you can use that for everything. That's it for this week. Bye-bye.